I recognized that it was okay to tell other people what I was thinking, especially if I thought it would help them.
Yeah.
That one of the things that gets, brokers fired and or not hired for the next assignment is when you're sitting on a conference call with the developer and their capital partner and whomever else, and there's nothing to say.
Welcome to the Mountain West Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Mountain West Podcast. Today, we have a guest that we have been trying to track down for a couple of months. We've had him on the schedule a couple times, but he's been too busy. We finally tracked him down, and it's late in the day. He just told me as we were walking in that he has worked from 7 a.m. to 5 a.m., which is like 22 hours in a row. So, we are excited to have him. It is Kyle Roberts. And I'm going to say something crazy that he's not going to like, but I'm going to say it anyway. Kyle Roberts, the most successful industrial broker that this market has ever seen. He's going to hate it, and he can tell us why he hates it in a second. And we also have Nick Wood, who is the CEO of Newmark Mountain West. And Nick's got a really interesting connection here in that he and Kyle worked together side by side for 20-something years. And so I thought it would be interesting to have Nick on the podcast because of that connection and because we really have that commonality between Kyle on either side of Kyle. And we've seen different things in different parts of his career. And so if you could just give us an intro on, how in the world you got here sitting in this room with us.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long story, but mine and Kyle's history goes way back. So been with Kyle for all of but 2 years of probably my 23, 24 years in the business. And I have to say, Kyle's probably one of the best mentors I've ever had. And I've worked with him as just a young punk in the research department, all the way up to, leading up and selling our brokerage together. And then after that, going into the corporate environment and, running an industrial platform in conjunction with Kyle and the industrial leadership team. So, I mean, it's really covered all spans of the last 2 decades. And anyway, really excited to have him on today and just cover his journey into commercial real estate and the giant that he is.
Welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's just jump into it. I have literally 50 questions here that I came up with in like 10 minutes. Kyle is someone I've known for 30 years. Mm-hmm. And it's someone who I really, really respect. He's a friend of mine. He's a partner of mine. I can say a lot of superlatives, but he's a great guy. He's an intelligent guy. I've learned a ton from Kyle. I'll explain why in the podcast, but I'm really excited about this one. So welcome.
Well, thank you for having me.
And let's just jump in. If you can give us kind of a quick personal history on what in the world you're doing in commercial real estate, how you got here.
So from a pretty early age, every job I ever had was sales. And there was one brief moment in time in my life where I got to run around, blow things up, had the honor to serve as an infantry Marine, Charlie 11 and 1st Marine Division out of Camp Pendleton, California. And I had a pretty catastrophic injury that ended my service and turned me a direction where I had absolutely no idea where I was going to go. I had some pretty lofty plans and goals for that service, and ultimately, I kind of just gravitated back to the thing that and I wish I could tell you that there was some amazing calculus that went into wanting to be in commercial real estate, but I've always had a little bit of an aversion to authority, and that so I was one of those people that really needed to go have his ass kicked a little bit and learn a lot about humility and humanity in a very close quarters context. So when I came back, I actually had moved to Utah when my folks were had moved from California kind of right after the brain drain and in the post SNL recession that had happened And my father was a school teacher. My mother was a consultant for that ran around and taught people about ICD-9 coding and whatnot. And I honestly really didn't like it very much. I moved here, as a mid-teen, and it was a little bit like Footloose, honestly, for me. San Diego area kid moves to Sandy, Utah with what Sandy was in, 1988, 89.
Yeah, literally was like Footloose.
It was. And, our market has become a lot more diverse and whatnot. And in some respects, a lot more tolerant and accepting of lots of different things, which has been fantastic for the state, and applaud everybody for that. But when I shipped off to boot camp, I enlisted when I was 17, had my 18th birthday in School of Infantry, and was injured not long after that on a pre-deployment workup. And when I came home, I really had no idea what I was going to do. My sister was attending the University of Utah at that time, and she convinced me to go to a fraternity rush function. So I went up there, met a bunch of cool guys. We were kind of more the Animal House like fraternity. There wasn't a lot of wealth. It wasn't super stuffy. It was just a bunch of people that were looking for diversion and brotherhood, and I enrolled as a finance major with what was at the time available was a real estate emphasis. They call it an emphasis.
This was before MRED.
Long before. Yeah. And I needed to work, so I did what I had known and went back, and I was in retail sales. So I sold suits, of all things, at a couple different places.
I would have paid money to see that.
I was actually really good.
I bet you were good, but
where the fashion translates.
And realized pretty quickly that was not what my aspiration was. Not that that's just for me wasn't what I wanted to do forever. And I always had a pretty strong drive to be financially successful. Didn't grow up with much, and kind of classic American story. Everybody wants to do better for the next generation than what it was, and leave it better than you found it. And so I was dating a girl who actually made the decision in the summer of my freshman year to go get a real estate license, because my thought was, if you're going to sell something and you want to be commission only, sell the biggest thing. It was that simple.
Right.
So I went to Stringham Real Estate School.
This is where we met.
Uh-huh.
We actually didn't really meet. I just was introduced to you, and let me tell the story of what happened. So I go to Stringham Real Estate. I'm 18 years old. I had just graduated from high school, and back then you had to go to a physical place, which was Stringham Real Estate, and you'd go, and there was a classroom of 100 people that were all trying to get their real estate license. I mean, they're throwing out terms. I've never heard of any of these terms. I'm 18 years old. I'm an idiot. I don't know what they're saying. The instructor's up there. Every time the instructor says, does anyone know what a 1031 is? I'm like, what? I have no idea what that is. A guy in the class raises his hand. Yeah, sir, that's a situation where... And then the next question would come up, does anyone have a... And like every question was answered by this guy who was my age.
And what was your guys' age for reference?
I was 18 in 1995.
And I was 19.
18 and 19.
He's answering every question. There's 30-year-olds, there's 40-year-olds, there's 50-year-olds in the room. No one knows how this kid, like savant genius, is answering all these questions. I hate this guy, okay? So anyway... There's another part of the story, but he ends up getting his license. I end up going on a Mormon mission, and I come back and I start working at a place called CRG, which at the time was the most dominant brokerage in the market. I walk in, the very first person I see is Kyle. And I was like, oh my gosh, this guy. Sorry.
Well, no, it's fine. So I was dating a girl right after I got my license, and I didn't know that I want to do residential, commercial, or otherwise. Tend not to gravitate towards emotional decisions for business or money, and I was learning about finance. So the girl I was dating, her best friend was working for Bowler at CRG.
Yeah.
And so she's like, hey, come, people are always looking for, motivated people that want to give it a shot. So I came and interviewed with Steve Martin, who suggested that I work with Robert Cooper.
Now that would have been an amazing combo.
It was a crash course in talking really fast.
Yeah. I actually worked for him. That was my first job at CRG.
Oh, was it really?
For Cooper, yeah.
Yeah. So, oh, wow. That didn't last more than about 6 or 7 months. And Taylor DeBry had come on and, had an MBA and, fantastic guy and knew there was a lot of relationship connection in the community. So I could understand strategically why I probably was not going to be on the growth trajectory that I wanted to be on. So actually, the very first real estate deal I ever did was a 2,000 square foot Navy recruiting center in Centerville.
Wow.
And Robert was gracious enough to give me that fee as a parting gift. It was a 1-year deal.
He was a good guy. He was a good guy.
He was a good guy. And I mean, fantastic broker.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot. And the thing that struck me was how hard people worked, that it was intense, that it was action-packed. There were so many things that you could focus on and learn. So anyway, after I departed, I went and sat with Bill Martin, and we were talking, and he took a liking to me for whatever reason, and it's probably because I like to smoke cigars. And I asked him, who makes the most money here? And he pointed right over his shoulder and said, that guy right there.
Yeah.
And I had been bugging Zach Anderson, who was Mike's partner at the time, and was extraordinarily successful early on. One of the most fun people I had ever been around, and just a fantastic human. And he took a liking to me, and I said to him, hey, look, I'll do all the stuff you don't want to do so you can do more of the things that you want to do. And, we went to Chili's, and I was underage, and
that's where the best deals are closed.
Chili's. I had a draft beer and one for Zach that I bought, but my friend Dale Walker was the manager there, and I really didn't have the money to be buying beers at lunch, so he kind of covered it, and it must have made a good impression. So he sat me down, had an interview with Mike, and I started at $6.25 an hour with a mileage reimbursement, and at certain thresholds, 1% of Mike's net after expenses and brokerage, all that stuff.
Yeah, and just for perspective, at the time, we're talking about Mike Falk and Zach Anderson, who were the best industrial brokers in the market, and probably some of the highest producing brokers, period. Maybe the highest producing broker.
Yeah, Mike had just come off the first first $1 million year that had ever been achieved by a broker. And he was, that was back when the commercial real estate community was a part of the Salt Lake Board of Realtors. Mm-hmm. So they had the Realtor of the Year award, and Zach had won Rookie of the Year. Mike had won Broker of the Year, and I liked the intensity. I liked that it was there was no wondering where you stood, and Mike was very clear with what he expected, and he gave me a lot of rope. I think he recognized pretty early on that I picked up the technical aspects of things, and so really spent a lot of time. Mike go out, put something on a contract, and I'd clean them and fry them, and and that worked really well. And we ended up hiring a couple of interns, and this would have been, so my second year in the business, I could tell that Mike and I used to leave, and we would walk around the block and go down to what was the burger joint right on the corner of 4th South.
Yeah, it was the Greek place.
The Greek place, yeah. I can't, oh gosh. It was like one of the families that was related to the Crown Burgers. No, they had good fry sauce.
I remember that.
And so we did that often, and I was kind of a sounding board for Mike, and he used to say that I had a tuning fork for people because that was maybe not his strongest suit. And like any good broker, he was filling gaps. And so I just became more and more involved in deals. And
a cool nugget there for anyone that's listening that's a rookie is you found some of the highest producing brokers in the market at the time. You approached them and you said, let me do stuff for you that you don't want to do. I will work on garbage. I will work on anything. I will solve problems for you that you don't want to solve.
And it was funny because in the interview because Zach then pestered Mike forever, and Mike was extraordinarily busy. And I mean, I thought he was a tycoon because he had a cell phone in his car right? I mean,
yes.
It was a big deal.
With the antenna.
Yep.
Like the whole 9
yards.
line in the car.
I was like, this dude.
So baller.
Yeah, this dude is, Mike's an impressive guy.
For sure.
Was tenacious broker, and it was a great way to learn the expectation of work ethic. And Mike and Zach had left to go on the company trip. This was in my second year in the business. And when they came back, a very long-time client and former partner, Paul Kaiser from Utah Paperbox, was a very close friend of Mike's, and he'd done a bunch of work, and I had worked on a couple of transactions where, after getting a thing signed up, I was the primary interface to get the deal closed. And Paul took a liking to me, and when Mike and Zach were gone, in the week that they were gone for the trip, I had put together 2 seller finance deals, one with Nielsen Frozen Custard on a 10,000 square foot building in North Salt Lake Industrial Park, and another building that kind of dilapidated building that Paul owned, that was kind of a warehouse for all his toys. And when they came back, they were kind of surprised, and it was like, all right, we'll see if they close.
We better bring this kid into the fold, otherwise he's going to.
Well, I think it was more like, nobody taught me how to do a seller finance deal. I was asking Anna Irons I had unbelievable people that were around that are many that are still involved in the business, many that are not, some that have passed away, that were generous with their time. And I was pretty persistent and probably a little precocious. And I think Rod Newman at Metro National Title and Anna worked there. And when I would have questions about something, they'd give me the time to answer them. And a kind of, I am a person that has, it's a compulsion. I have to understand why. I need to understand why things work, how they work. And for me, that has been a blessing and a curse. I know I'm rambling here, but so it was there seller financed.
Like a big connection with super high producers that I've noticed, especially in this market, is you're the number one industrial broker in this market right now, probably ever. But you were mentored by a guy and a team who at the time was the number one industrial broker.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you look at the top 10 most successful brokers in today's market, 8 of them were mentored by the previous generation's top producing, there's a really interesting connection there. And you still have to have all the hard work and everything, but the curve is so much shorter because, like you're saying, you're very inquisitive, you have all these questions. You can turn around and ask the guy right there.
Well, You didn't do that with Mike when he was on the phone because he'd be grumpy about that. But, but Mike was generous with his time. I mean, we stayed late and, order a pizza and I'd ask him questions and ask him for feedback and, what I could do to improve and help the team grow and all that fun stuff. And so I started producing pretty quickly. And a lot of that also was being on a top producing team, and there's a deal that probably wasn't worth Mike or Zach's time. And so they gave it to me to do. Or, I start working on something because I'm returning phone calls that Mike or Zach didn't want to return, and they made a connection with somebody and they started calling me, those kinds of things. So there's absolutely no scenario that I can think of where strong mentors, and especially those that are, they do it year after year after year, and there's a systematic approach to the business, and you plan the work and then you work the plan, and then adapt when you have to adapt.
Yeah,
that was the ethos. So we decided. Mike was always had a lot of drive also, and I think he'd always, in his heart, wanted to own and run a brokerage. So he sat down with Zach and I in one of our quarterly planning meetings. We'd go for a quarter, completely tear our business apart for once per quarter, and then we decided that was too fast, so we did it 3 times a year and called it a triannual. And I
went to a couple of those back in the day.
Yeah, we would literally leave, go somewhere at a hotel, and tear our business plan completely apart, and then have an awful lot of fun afterwards, and then slink back into the office the next day, hating the world, but with a better idea of how we were going to attack it.
And you continue that to this day, right?
Yeah, we still do them. We've kind of changed formatting and some other things that from what they were before. And
you're sleeping now at some point.
And so at that, Mike looked right at Zach and I, and he said, I want to start a company. And okay, I wasn't going to not follow Mike at that point in time, or Zach for that matter. And the extraordinarily fierce loyalty the clients had because of, I think, the service that was being provided, made it easy to make that transition. And we, within a week, had put together, Zach found space at the Eagle Gate Tower on the lucky 13th floor. I didn't think they had office floors that were 13 back in the day, but
I remember I came in one day, this is at CRG, and you guys had left, and it was a real bummer because at that point I had gotten to know you, and we had become friends, and I had a ton of respect for you and was excited about working with you, and so I was bummed out about that, but the opportunity was so huge. You guys started what became NAI Utah. Was it initially NAI Utah
it was NAI Utah, then it became NAI West.
That's right. And that became the largest brokerage, most dominant brokerage in the region. And what's really interesting is it all comes full circle because I was at CRG for 10 years, maybe like 5 or 6 years after you left. And then we started talking about doing our own brokerage. And you and Mike reached out to me and said, hey, we should talk. And we ended up talking to a bunch of different brokerages and thought, should we do our own thing? Should we partner with somebody? And Mike was awesome and a great salesman, but I was just a little hesitant. And I've told you this before, I'm sure, but you were the one who really closed that deal. You grabbed me. We went into a conference room. We talked through it. And I really had a very, very high level of trust and respect in you. And so leaving that meeting, I was like, let's do this. And so you guys actually invested in Mountain West, the startup company, owned the majority of it. And that's how we started.
Yeah. And it was, I remember all those meetings with you and Ben. And I think some of that kind of camaraderie and same generation. And we were probably roughly same points in time in our career, because you had a pretty meteoric rise also. And it really, I think the only thing that causes brokers to leave something, the world changed and it became a lot more financially accretive for a top producing broker to leave and go somewhere else. But I mean, somebody paying a broker to go to another firm was unheard of. And the structure that we put together, if you remember, was rather than cash, you guys got ownership in Mountain West.
Yep.
Because it had kind of started to become a thing then.
Right.
And it was always very impressive to me that people would take that opportunity. And it's also, I think, a very common theme with successful brokers is that they invest in themselves and they believe in themselves. So, and I think the only reason that people leave is either they are tempered for growth. There are sometimes conflicts in offices where people don't get along, and blow-ups that happen over things that are probably silly, and somebody makes the decision to go somewhere else. But what allowed us to grow so quickly at NAI Utah was we had a ethos which was the best place to do brokerage business. So we were less focused on company profitability than we were broker profitability. And as people started to get paid to do things, we were really successful recruiting people that had a higher split. So it's, I'm going to pay you to come, but believe in yourself. And those people that kind of seize that opportunity also, I mean, it tells you something about who they are and what they're going to be.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, as a result of everything you just said, really the DNA, the backbone of Mountain West and now Newmark Mountain West is that, because that's where it was born and that's how it was built from the ground up.
Yeah. And I think, I give all of the partners credit because, Steve Condi was the fourth horseman. It was the four of us that started the company. And then Eli Mills joined a week later. So he was effectively there at the beginning.
Yeah, one of the favorite core memories I have is it's the newspaper article when you guys launched and started NAI, right? So it's the five people you just mentioned. You, Zach, Mike, Condi, and Eli Mills.
Yep.
But just looking back at that,
I remember that. I actually remember that.
Yeah, you were a baby in that photo. So
Absolutely.
We got to find that somewhere.
I have it.
You do?
Yeah, I have the actual article.
I haven't seen that in like 25 years.
It was October of 1998, and
so you would have been what age then?
22.
So 22 years old, and then
took a couple mortgages on a house that I bought, and maxed out credit cards to buy my portion of the company.
So the two pivotal moments. So you have 98, NAI gets launched. Obviously, Chad and you and your team do everything at CRG over that time. And then you talked about the formation of Mountain West, which was 2009.
2009, yeah.
And so at that point, you guys both would have been what age?
I was 34 or something like that. 33, 34. So Kyle would have been 33.
Right about that same.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you guys just right in the prime.
Well,
Yeah,
he
and
was
that
he was a lot younger than I was when he took that leap.
I don't know about
sure.
that, but I think that if there is one consistent kind of theme in what I see as a successful environment, fertile soil for brokers to succeed, is a recognition of just how important support services are, but a environment where those folks are also treated like partners, so they want to be there, and they're recognized for the things that they do and rewarded. And we had, owners of our company, Monique Clausen, when she came over, she owned 1% of the firm, and that's what she wanted instead of a signing bonus.
Yeah,
so,
she was a receptionist.
Yeah, she was the receptionist at CRG, and I think Bill might have been most angry about her leaving.
Yes, I remember being on the other side of that.
So I think that having the ability to adapt to markets, recognizing that generally when things are softer or there is some type of crisis that's occurring that creates macroeconomic disruption, that's the time to invest. That's when everybody is, it's the old Warren Buffett, invest when people are fearful, and right.
When everyone's running out the door, you want to be running in.
Right. And that's what we did. And that's kind of what I do now, from a perspective of kind of targeting growth. And
so let's talk about now, because we've talked about history and how we got to where we are. We obviously missed a lot, but that was the condensed version. Now, yeah, you're the most successful industrial broker the world's ever seen in this market, and you're bristling when I say that.
That's debatable.
But the really cool thing that I think that I want to explore with you is you came from a team, Mike Falk and Zach, and you had a great team. And then those guys retired. And now you've built this incredible team. I mean, it is the biggest team in this market. It is the most successful team in this market. It's probably the most successful team that's ever been assembled in this market. I pulled some quick stats before. You guys did 200 transactions last year. 200 transactions. That's an enormous amount. And how many people are on the team now?
17. We've just grown it and made some investment based on what I believe is the trajectory of the market, and where we need to focus, and having the right skill sets to do it.
Yeah. And here's where I think it gets really interesting. You would never say it's your team, and you have distributed the revenue across that with so many great partners and so many great contributors who are all making incredible money, huge producers in their own right. And I just love to figure out how that works. Building a team in real estate, in commercial real estate, is one of the most complicated and difficult things to do. And in my experience, the lifespan of a team is around 5 to 8 years. You guys have been doing this for 25 years. I mean, you and Luke have been partners with Burbank for 25 years.
Yep.
And then you've built 15 more people on top of that. How?
So I kind of coined a phrase when we created the most recent iteration of our team, which was myself, Luke, Eli Priest, and Jeff Heaton. And the phrase was me, or we, not me. And that's the we, not me kind of mentality. And, when you have, defined splits, for example, the same person's always going to be the top producer. And I don't ever want my name on that wall alone.
Yeah.
So it's, none of us is really successful in an environment like that if you feel like you're bigger than the sum of its parts, and that's part of also what blows up teams.
The number one thing that destroys teams, in my experience, is that guy who perceives himself as the founder of the team or the guy that started the team. There's a moment in time when someone else on the team outproduces that guy. Can that guy's ego take that moment? And most people can't, and that's what breaks most teams.
Yeah,
what you're describing right now.
Yeah, the first time that happened, we had a year where with our new iteration of the team, and Luke just absolutely knocked it out of the park and linked up with some family office folks that really were not active in commercial real estate, but wanted to be, and just literally knocked it out of the park. And of course, based on defined splits and all of those things, that year I was number one, but I went to Nick before and they said, "You're changing the order," because I wasn't.
It's a true story.
Yeah.
And
you have to just like isolate that for a second. What you just said is something that most people would never do. You were because of the team structure and everything, you would have theoretically been the number one broker of the year. And you said, put Luke on it because he actually had an incredible year and produced a huge amount. I mean, so I think really the overriding message there is, if you want to build a team, you better be a selfless person.
You have to recognize and reward talent. You have to give people the ability to grow. They have to feel safe. We have virtually no conflict. We added Ben Richardson as the first partner we've added since 2016, and has been a phenomenal addition, and has kind of the same ethos. And I mean, I would grow the team as large as it could possibly be if we had the right chemistry to do that. And the way I think about that now is there are, some amazing raw or starting to polish talent that's here at Mountain West that they don't have to be a part of our team to be a part of our team. Mm-hmm. And I think there's top producing teams also tend to have this, this information is mine, these processes are mine, all of those things.
It's almost like a company within a company.
It is, yeah.
That's right? How they want it to be. They want it to be closed circuit.
And that really didn't ever make sense to me. Tools are just that, and really the impact of a tool is the person swinging the hammer. The rest of it is, that it's there to do calculus, but if you don't understand and can't interpret the inputs and outputs, then it's not worth anything. So that didn't ever really scare me, and to this day, I mean, when somebody joins Newmark Corporate, I'll call them up and ask them what they need, and happy to share whatever information we have. And there's a culture with the top producers there that I think really reflects that too. So sharing does not have to be a reductive process. Mm-hmm. If you recognize that whether it's an investment of time or information or whatever with whoever that next person is, it's an enormous reward to see people be very successful. And I think that's...
For some people.
Yeah. Well...
For some people it's not, but what you just said, you're saying it like it's normal. That's not normal.
That's what I know.
Yeah. So, no, I get that. I'm the same way. I love when people succeed, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah. And I think I also pretty much everything I ever did in my life was team. I mean, I four-sport athlete. I joined the Marine Corps, left, you're with a team of salespeople, and then joined a team right out of the gate. And, I think there's an enormous opportunity and also somewhat a responsibility to pay it forward. And, I have another saying that, it's better to be judged by your footprints than your posters. Because people that...
I love all these anecdotes.
They're great.
Because if you do something that's impactful and it leaves a footprint, people will generally remember something about what that is.
Yeah.
But it's impermanent. We have the time we have on this rock, and we're going to move on. And I try to approach things, I'm not perfect at it, from the perspective of leave it better than you found it. By the way,
this is totally unrelated, but this is a Kyleism that he said to me one time, and I say this to people all the time. He and I were sitting in a conference room once, and we had just had a meeting with a bunch of people who were kind of a-holes,
I know this one.
And I've repeated this innumerable times to people because it's such a great...
I have no idea what you're about to say.
I don't think you and I have ever talked about this. And all the people got up, they left, and it was just Kyle and me left in the conference room. And he looked over at me and he said, "Do you know what you call yourself when you look around in a conference or in a conference room and it's just you think to yourself, everybody at this table is an a-hole?" And I was like, yeah, no, that's exactly what just happened. He's like, yeah. He's like, do you ever think to yourself, like, I'm the only guy in this room that's not an a-hole? I was like, yeah, exactly. He's like, no, dude, you're an a-hole too. We're in the same room. We're all a-hole. I just thought that was so funny.
Yeah.
But here's another thing that I really think is interesting about Kyle and I respect, and this is what makes you so great. Most brokers, almost all brokers, are what I call ditch diggers, which means you give us an assignment, you give us a shovel, and you say, start digging in that direction. And we do. And some are really good at digging in that direction. Mm-hmm. Some people will dig, and they'll be 3 miles ahead of every other broker. But Kyle has this really unique ability to be digging and to stop and to stand up in the ditch and look around and go, should we be digging in this direction? Maybe we're digging in the wrong direction. Maybe this shovel I have isn't that efficient. Maybe my shoes could be like, he just has an ability to take in his surroundings and really decide and recalibrate. And I think that's what makes you so successful as a broker, but also so successful as a team leader and with your clients as well.
Well, thank you. It comes from being inquisitive and having to know how and why things work. So when there are a system of variables that kind of repeat consistently, and then something changes, I want to isolate that variable that changed it, mm-hmm. and then and look at it and try to find other anomalous things that are occurring that are it's pattern recognition, right? What is different, and then you can kind of knit those things together in a way that you can draw a conclusion about something. And that's, I've been kind of blessed and cursed with the ability to take large volumes of information and predict what it means and where is it going to go and why is it going to go that way. And I also have this, it's a probably most people close to me would say that it's a character defect, but I have this, and I know you guys know this because we've been in lots of management meetings and rooms and things. I have the inability, if I have absolute conviction that something needs to be said, not to say it. I can't. I'm not able to. It's like a compulsion, mm-hmm. And it's very rarely at the right time. And
I've heard many of those.
Yeah. But I think that's a part of it too. You have to have conviction in what you believe. Mm-hmm. And if you spend the time and you develop over a long period of time. And I'm one that believes the day you stop learning is the day you start dying. So I am learning constantly. And what I'm trying to do always is observe my surroundings, be situationally aware, and in a business context or a data context or a deal context, and understand what needs to get from point A to point B, and what tools and people and things you need to do to put in place to do that, which is kind of a fundamental management thing. But more than that is have absolute conviction that if I have a thesis for something and I look around and it's not confirmation bias, but you have directional data points that all point the same way. I think a lot of people are afraid to say change is coming. Here is what the market is going to be 12 or 24 months from now. And that's one thing that I add to our team is I'm always trying to push us to where the puck's going to be.
Mm-hmm. I've got a great story that taps into that. I don't know if you probably recall it, but it was back in 2021. So we're at Newmark's Top Producers Retreat in the Breakers Hotel in
hottest industrial market ever.
Yeah, hottest industrial market ever. Yep. Anyway, we're at a breakout, industrial specific breakout. So you have the top producers across the entire Newmark platform. But at this time, like you have the after effects of COVID, you have all the things happening with these container ships, you have all-time high in consumer demand. And anyway, Kyle had a thesis, just like he was talking about. He's trying to understand like why all these things are happening. And he sits in that room and he predicts what's going to happen for the next 6, 9, and 12 months. And I mean, he's relating it to containers on the container ships, which are called TEUs, what that converts to in inventory, what the demand's going to do after that once the demand settles down. And literally every one of these top producing brokers in that room, their jaws were on the table.
Well, I said that the market is going to change, and within the next 18 months, we're going to be in a cycle. And it started in 2023, and it was pretty predictable. You could look at the relationship between household debt and consumerism, inflation that was there, the fuel that was being thrown on the fire that was going to exacerbate that with all the thank you for voting checks and what people did with that money. And you could look at things like wage adjusted or inflation adjusted wage deflation. So as inflation was rising, wages weren't rising at the same pace. So there's a gap, and interest rates were zero. And there was just a lot of things that were.
You said it's pretty predictable, but it was pretty predictable, but it really wasn't.
But not in the way that you broke it down. And that's what so many people like. I mean, I had people following up with me 6, 12 months later. Like, and at the time I was very involved in the industrial platform with Kyle. So I would get this direct feedback. And to your point, Chad, on the ditch digging and like, hey, are we going in the right direction? That's one of probably like 9 examples I could give you about Kyle. And what's been so fun to watch over Kyle's span of just his evolution as being one of the top, like being the top industrial broker, is that it's not just a Utah or regional thing. Like Kyle's a nationally respected
I have
voice.
Like, I have a sheet full of stats here. We don't even have time to get to.
Whether it's white papers, like, I mean, it's one thing to hit once, but to hit again and again, that's when you become that respected voice nationally. And it's been very, very cool to watch.
Largest transaction of the year award 11 times in a row. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, we and those would have been relative to this market. But again, I mean, if you know something is right and the sun is shining and everybody's enjoying the moment, fire a storm cloud, I'm gonna look at it and then try to figure out what's pushing it and what direction is it moving. And then once I'm convinced that rain's going to fall, I tell people because I'm convinced. And
some people call that Rain Man.
Yeah, I've gotten that a little bit. So I think that may be the thing that has helped me be one of the most successful brokers in the market.
There we go.
There's a, I'm not afraid of saying what I think and why.
Why do you keep doing what you're doing? You have had a long career. You've made plenty of money. You could get in your car today and never go back to work again and sit on a beach for the rest of your life and live great. What do you do?
You get to a point in this business where it kind of becomes like an autonomic reflex, right? It's parasympathetic muscular response. Something happens and your body reacts to it, but that's kind of how you kind of like, you're in the matrix, right?
Are you excited when you wake up in the morning and you think it's Thursday and I got to go to work?
Not always. I mean, I think like anybody else, there are ups and downs, and I'm a human being like everybody. What I think draws me to it so much is that it's always a puzzle, and the person that can put it together the quickest and identify what the picture is going to have an impact. And there are, I don't have a problem sitting down with an economist and having a conversation about supply chain logistics and disagreeing with them. And I actually kind of like that constructive debate because you learn from it. I just love to learn. I really love to learn. And then at a point in time in my career, I recognized that it was okay to tell other people what I was thinking, especially if I thought it would help them.
Yeah.
And recognize that one of the things that gets brokers fired and or not hired for the next assignment, or where you lack or lose credibility, is when you're sitting on a conference call with the developer and their capital partner and whomever else, and there's nothing to say about what's happening in the market. That just something's not moving. I'm trying to find out why, and I probably have before that call, and I'm articulating that the circumstance that we're in exists because of this reason. And so depending on what outcome you want, we have a menu of choices that we can make. We could talk through what those outcomes are. But the market's a market, and we are participants in it. We're not market makers, we're market participants. And I think brokers are at their best when they're not transaction intermediaries, but it's a much more kind of consultative approach to the business. And there are things that other people do far better than I do, and I just happen to embrace the thing that I'm good at, and I really enjoy doing. I really like looking at the macro to micro and trying to pick the direction the wind is going to blow. And then when it's not perfect, but when you have more success and failure doing it, and then people are asking you questions, it's okay to write things and have conviction as long as you're prepared to support those things. And then pretty quickly, you find yourself in a circumstance where they're not even your clients, but people want to know what you think. Where's the market headed? Why? And the answers to those questions for me are not typically net absorption and gap analysis, and although those things matter, it's what's going to happen next. Where's it going and why?
I think that's why you've been so successful and your clients are so sticky with you, is because your level of intelligence and, like we talked about, the ability to stand up in the ditch and say, what are we doing? Where are we going? Why are we doing this?
Well, and if you have to raise your voice and tell everybody to stop digging, sometimes that's the right thing to do.
But a lot of brokers, the majority of brokers, either are afraid to do that, or they just don't even think that's part of their job. And in my experience, the best brokers have the ability to say to their client, hey, I actually disagree, and these are the reasons why. I would be willing to bet that most of the consistently top producing brokers in the world do that, share that trait. For sure.
And it's scary sometimes, and it's not fun to tell somebody something they don't want to hear, but it's even less fun if you know and you don't say something and the earthquake hits. Now, not only were you, and I hate to use the word, a little cowardly about it, but you're also partially responsible for not getting the people out of it. And that I don't like.
And in those moments, your clients realize the value that you bring, right? Over a typical broker who just either one didn't say anything or didn't even know to say anything, which is even worse.
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up, because all of us here have a connection to Mike Falk, whether mentored or whatever, my question to you is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Which is something Mike often would ask people. You're at the absolute.
I like this one.
I would call it you're at the apex of your career. You've been at that place for a long time. But where do you go from here? You're at the very top of your game.
Well, I have people often ask me the question. Sometimes my wife and others, when you kind of work at a frantic pace, how much is enough? And my answer to that is, or how much do you want? My answer to that is, I have everything that I need, but there's more that I want to do. So I think this is true of most people that have longevity in this business. This is my 30th year in it. There is that desire to help groom the next generation. And it's not just brokerage. Any organization where the ethos is, if the next generation isn't better at this than I was, then there's some level of personal responsibility in that failure. So I'm sure I'm crotchety and the old guy in the business sometimes, but I derive a lot of enjoyment out of mentoring and seeing people have success and participating in that success in a way that nobody has to know. And then when you do that over and over again, the other thing that happens is you have an immense support system, and that's pretty invaluable. I mean, it never crosses my mind that if I find myself in a really sticky situation, that I don't have 100 people I could call.
Becomes your family.
Yeah. And I mean, we're with the people that we work with oftentimes more than we are our family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it is that way. And the squabbles are that way. And the emotion that's attached to it is that way. So I try to think, or I like to think, that the next season of time for me is a continuation of that. And then that generally bears a lot of fruit and creates opportunity that maybe wasn't there, or in order to execute on that opportunity, whether it's participating in a real estate transaction as a principal, or putting the deal together with your clients. That's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. I get a great amount of enjoyment out of the capital markets side of the business, mostly because it lends itself, and this is, true of development. I tend to think that development is a capital markets transaction. It just has less predictability because you don't have an existing stream of cash flow or whatever.
Yeah.
Those things are all fundamentally puzzles, and the better you get at solving those puzzles, the easier this job gets. And the one fear I have about AI is that people lose that skill because they become reliant on something else to tell them. And it's, for me, extremely difficult if I don't know what the source of the information is. I don't know how credible that source is. I know it's being pulled from lots of different places. And I think as large language learning models continue to advance and you have more compute space and all of those things, it'll get better. Mm-hmm. But I want that skill. You know, and pretty much everybody that knows me knows that I shoot long range and I'm pretty proficient at it. And
we could do an entire podcast on guns. Literally. We could do 5 podcasts.
Absolutely.
On it's absolutely
I'm going to do a podcast first. I have to go to the bathroom. I'm going to die.
Go.
I drank like 3 months.
Yeah, go. So what I love about it is there's a combination of art and science. There are things that are very are easily predictable based on the same system of variables. However, there's art because you got to dope the wind, and you have to have some experience at it, and you have to do fundamentally biomechanics have to be correct to have your round impact its intended target, and that's a good analog for what it is that we do. And I think that there's a place for everybody in this business that wants to work hard.
Yes.
I think actually intelligence is a lesser indicator of success in our business than is work ethic.
That is absolutely true.
And if you surround yourself by people, maybe they don't have to be the ones deciding where you're going to dig, but if you know they'll pick up the shovel
Yep.
and they're going to grind with you until you're where you need to be, that becomes an immense asset.
I think everything you just said is 100% accurate. I would add on top of that, the most successful brokers are a combination of hard work and intelligence.
Yeah,
You can
sure.
you can definitely be a broker who's a hard worker and make money. Happens all the time. It's awesome. It's one of the greatest things about our industry. What you cannot be is a smart guy who doesn't work hard.
Yep.
And a dumb guy who doesn't work hard, which is the deadliest of all the combos.
Yeah. Well, I think there are a lot of opportunities in our business to try and do different things, and that's a creative outlet for me, within certain boundaries. But and that kind of scratches that itch. And there's just so much going on all the time that creates that system of variables that you have to parse through and pick out and then apply those systems of information. It's never the same day twice, right? I mean, that's probably trite, but it's
Totally. No, that's totally true.
It is one of the things that attracts me to continuing to do this. And
There's a level of excitement of puzzle solving that
that's
appeals
it.
to you in particular and your personality type.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're doing something as a career that is a means to an end, I think most people that do that, I mean, it's obviously always a means to an end, but I mean, you have to sustain life. But if that is the primary driver of someone in something, those people tend to be spiteful, regretful, angry, tired, and don't want to. They just don't want to dig as hard and as much, and they end up doing something else, or hopefully they do something else. Mm-hmm. It's if you love the work and you love the things that are a part of all of the process of how the work gets done, and then you get to do it around a group of people that you like and care about, and you get to do it in a place that supports you in those endeavors. I'm, now kind of on the other side of that veil because I was a business owner for most of my career, and I learned very, valuable things for the time period that I was, a corporate asset of Newmark. And I think just if you know that you're in a grind that makes you feel those negative things, it's just time to do something different. And I think and having the courage to do it. It's the knowing the thing and having the courage to shout it in the wind is not much different than actually looking in the mirror and shouting it at yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's
I love the Kyle-isms.
So
You could write a book and just put all the Kyle-isms in it.
So good.
just the way my mind works.
I think we're out of time here, but I just want to say in summation that, there's so many great little tidbits about Kyle and what makes him great. And I think in particular, rookies or anyone in the industry can learn so much from this podcast and so much from a lot of the things you said, but just a couple of things I really grabbed out of there. And I know you so well and respect you so much, but you're an incredible team builder because you're selfless, because you really want your teammates to do better than you. And that is huge. And you are incredibly intelligent, and you're willing to stand up in the ditch and say, what are we doing? What direction are we going? And you're willing to have hard conversations with clients and say, I don't agree with that. I think we should consider this. And all of those things and so many other things that we've talked about today is what makes you so great, what makes you the number one industrial broker that this market has ever seen. And I'm just so excited and appreciative of you and love you. And
You know, the feeling's mutual. The only thing that I would challenge there is it really a team if you're not cheering when your teammate scores?
here you go. See?
No, we
No,
got another
write
one.
it down.
Add it to the list.
We're going to share in the profits of this book. Kyle Roberts, thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Get some sleep. It's been
to be
22
home.
hours of nonstop work. Let's let this guy sleep and wake up tomorrow and back to deals.
Right back at it.
Thanks, brother.
All right.
Appreciate it. That's pretty good.